Very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
It's another beautiful Friday, the start of a wonderful weekend. Good morning and welcome to your perfect morning starter. And we're here just to start the weekend for you on a right note. I am Bukola Kuka.
So if Monday means business, Friday means what? Well, good morning. I'm Kaido Kikilu. What does Friday mean? Chill. Preparing to sleep. It's part of what's on the table. Right? Sleep is not negotiable. Or rest, as some people will call it, but you're just trying to wind down, take it easy. Yeah. Even God rested on a day within the week, so you try and slow it down. We know you want to make all the money, but you can't make all the money, at the end of the day. So you try and slow down, take it easy, so that you get refreshed, revitalized, and then you get started again on a Monday. It's like a rat race, but make sure your own rat race is a good one, right? A rewarding one, by the way.
Yeah. Whatever it means, it's important that we make it count, and that's what we're here to do. Make it count for you. Be as productive as you can as the weekend starts on a right note, right until the work day closes at whatever time that it closes. So I don't know what you guys are tracking, but it's pleasant to note that there's been recruitment done at the Nigeria Police Force, and deployment has followed suit immediately with that. So we expect better policing, more efficient service delivery from the force. And of course, Labour is set to begin conversations on the 50% tariff increase. We don't know where that will lead. Will it lead to a reduction? What will give from both sides of the divide on this inevitable increase in tariff for telecommunication services? So we're hopeful for the very, very best. Just a few things that are happening that we're tracking for you.
And I looked through all of those stories, and just something hits me, guys. You're on either sides of this divide I'm about to mention. You're either creating problems or you're solving problems. I think I'm trying to simplify life that way. Every passing moment, every blessed day, I think you're either creating problems, or you're somebody's problem, or the problem of a group of people, or creating solutions, helping people solve their problems. And you can look through the news and figure who is where, who is helping to make governance better for the people, at least help people feel the impact of governance, who is not, who is keeping governance lean and effective, who is not, who is contributing to the bad governance they complain about, and who is not. And I think it's as simple as that. So today, this is more of, would I call it a moral bit of the news? What part of the divide do you belong to? Are you creating problems, or you're creating solutions? I believe one of the first things you should do in helping Nigeria to solve a problem is to be useful to yourself. That is one man down on the irresponsibility list, and add yourself to the people that are responsible. No matter where you find yourself, whether you're in public or private service, make sure you are useful. Even if you're a student, don't be the bad guy, be the good guy. So that way you are contributing to yourself, you're contributing to your family, your community, and by extension the entire country. So just be useful first of all, and then we can now begin to count out those who are not, I don't want to use the word, let me use a better word, who are not as useful as they should be. They chose not to be that useful, but well, at the end of the day, let's do the best we can to build a better and more productive country. So guys, what are we talking about today? Maybe we'll begin with the papers. The papers is what we'll start off from today on the program. But before we get to all of the papers, we're going to talk about managing Nigeria's debts. Our debt right now is approaching 150. It's about 140 trillion. What did I say? 42.
142 trillion.
I just want to keep it around 140. So it's around that period, 140 trillion. So if you do the conversion, our budget size is about 49 or so. Trillion naira. That's about $31 billion. So you can see that our debt is really huge. What do we do to cut down on this debt? And there are certain things we can start doing in the budget, for instance. So the gentleman you're seeing will be joining us to break it down for us right here on the program.
And that comes with a lot of implications. We wonder if debt reduction will be a possibility, particularly, with happenings at the ongoing budget defense at the National Assembly. But that's not all. We'll be touching with the subnationals yet again today. At this time around, we're off to Cross River State today, and we're spotlighting the Works and Infrastructure Ministry, and the Commissioner will be joining us to examine the ongoing planned infrastructure projects in the state, while also explaining the state's efforts to enhance road networks and rural connectivity, among other initiatives.
We had a very interesting conversation yesterday about what music was like then and what it is like now. So we're pushing this forward because, Afrobeats is like our bread and butter, right? We'll be joined by a music critic to analyze those emerging artists to watch out for in 2025 as Afrobeats constantly grows, or the demand for Afrobeat continues to grow. But we need to ensure that we keep this sustainable. So that's a big one.
We're also going to be having a conversation around the sub-region. I'm talking about, of course, ECOWAS will be joined by the first Vice President and Deputy Senate President of Cote d'Ivoire as we just walk through a career of women in leadership as well as their contribution to the sub-region right here on the program.
And that's not all. We will finally, as we touched on the program today, get some tips, tech tips and computer tips from our tech advisor, Mr. Ibitoye. How much have you learned so far? I've learned the difference between thin cables and small cables. I've also learned not to put my laptop on soft surfaces, but on hard surfaces to preserve the lifespan of my, computer, my device. So what have you learned? There's so much more to learn from our tech advisor this morning. So join us for another productive conversation.
All right, you are a model student. I love that. I'm sure he will be proud of you. You can be a part of the show,
but I still don't know all of the X plus X, X minus X, X minus what?
It's a process. But you can be a part of the show, right? Head over to WhatsApp right now and let us know what you think about the major talking points just before we get into our dailies this morning. So you see the WhatsApp number on your screen right now.
All right, let's get straight to the dailies. Okay, that's the WhatsApp number. Messages and videos only. That's how you can reach us. So you can send in your thoughts, your questions, your comments, your suggestion, whatever it is you want us to know. We'll do our very best to bring it here on the program as soon as we get clarity on what you're talking about. Okay, let's get to the dailies, guys. The Blueprint newspaper is where we'll start off from with the dailies this morning. The major headline there says Nigeria at a turning point with renewed hope agenda. That's according to Tajuddin Abbas, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Says economy worsened when we dumped agriculture or oil. FG to ensure 65% arable land cultivated within 4 years. Okay, there's nothing Mr. Abbas has said that has not been said. Let's just pause that. But we hope this will be different. As I was driving down to work, I remember that when Muhammadu Buhari took over from Goodluck Jonathan, they spent a lot of years literally on the blame game on how the PDP or the Jonathan administration has literally brought the country to ruin and destroyed the country, and all of the things around corruption, all of the things around the list is on that, but right now that conversation is still on again. When you listen to some of the things that are being said, the economy was on the brink of collapse, the economy was this, that and the other. You ask yourself, did Muhammadu Buhari, the former president, really do anything? So I get bored. I get tired of this promises and assurances because we've heard this. We just want action, Kyrie.
Funny story, Jeffrey. There's still a major debate within the APC. Right? By the way, the APC has a different internal ideologies and the natural alignments. Yeah. So there's still that debate because it looks like for a lot of people, the Tinubu government is taking the shine of sorts. Talk about the refineries. And the ones who, the Buharis, for lack of a better term, will say, well, the the refineries didn't just work all of a sudden. Buhari did some things, and some say, well, he worked under Tinubu anyway, and it looks like he did a lot as well. So there's still that debate within the APC. And for a lot of Nigerians, they always look at the Buhari, I don't want to say regime now, the Buhari administration, and ask these questions. Lots of things that they expected the Buhari government to have done, but the truth is the Buhari government laid some foundation for this Tinubu government, either good or bad. That needs to be put in context.
So the refineries, of course, yeah, you can't say it without calling Buhari's name. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, something when I'm driving and says, Buhari, I say, at least I remember Buhari did this one. You know how we suffered for months to get that road fixed.
That road.
We suffered for many, many months for that road. So at least I can say that's what I see that the former President Buhari. I'm just tired of politicians just playing with us. And that's our responsibility as journalists to hold them to account, because I don't know what was when the former President Buhari came to power, the things that were said that the Jonathan administration and the PDP did, it looked like Nigeria was below the ground. And now the Buhari administration has ended. This government is saying, if we did not do what we were doing, it wasn't damage that was coming, it was destruction. Venezuela was on the way. What's that country? Zimbabwe. Some of these countries, that inflation got to 2,000%. When Tinubu is over now, what would they say?
As far as administrations are concerned, there'll always be a back and forth on who takes credit for what. You can recall even the rail line, there was that back and forth between the PDP government of the Jonathan administration and the Buhari government over who kick-started the rail construction project. I'm looking forward to a time where administrations will contend for credit over making life easier for Nigerians rather than making life more difficult for Nigerians, and those are the real issues. If the refinery has worked, how much are Nigerians buying petrol for? For instance, how much are the industries buying diesel for to power, manufacturing? Those are the real issues, not necessarily who put up a structure, which is a given, for any administration to make the economy conducive, for everyone to thrive, either the individual or the manufacturer or the businessman. Other stories.
The Nigerian Tribune is next up on our lineup, and there you have it. For another day, we're focusing on the health sector, which is a very vital one. And you see, JAPA, only 6,000 medical consultants remain in Nigeria, but there's more. Just 1 or 2 produced annually. There's even more. 1,700 consultants approaching 60-year retirement age. So if you take that away from the 6,000, what you have is 4,300. And at the rate at which we are producing just 1 or 2 annually, you can only imagine what the future holds.
So, Kadi, I'd like to ask, who's going to take credit for this?
I think that's one of the most brilliant questions I've heard in recent times, Bukola.
Thank you. I didn't intend it that way.
But at this point,
it's not going to get a point across.
Who's going to take debits for this? Really, because this does not speak well at all. I recall the doctors in the nation's capital challenging the Senate President and the FCT Minister to use hospitals in the nation's capital, Abuja. And this challenge can actually go round. We can go round. The governors, lawmakers, the president, and other politicians, or at least those who are elected.
It's ludicrous, obnoxiously ludicrous that
Jeffrey's angry this morning.
No, I am, because sometimes you try not to look at the country based on your own fortune or whatever. Look at the country from the man on the street, his ability to be able to access basics, whatever those basics are. That's how you look at the world. We cannot provide for everybody, but there are basics of the basics. That's protection as provided for in the Constitution. The country is working, the DC is doing that, is performing all the rhetorics when it comes to the people using it. But when it comes to the political class using it, they find themselves in London, they find themselves in Paris, they find themselves in the United States, they find themselves in India. And so
Turkey, Dubai.
This is just clearly what it is. How many of them take medical service from here at the end of the day? So it's important. And then I can see beneath that I can see beneath that picture on the Tribune. Leaving the medicals because you guys have said a lot. Let's talk about the politics. I don't know what exactly is going on here. Yes, on weekend, the FCT minister flanked on the right by Usman Ododo, the governor of Kogi, and then Yaya Bello on the left, who is embattled with the corruption allegations between him and the EFCC. So whatever is going on, we do not know. we intend to find out what exactly is happening here.
But this is certainly not strange. We have a PDP politician who works with an APC government. So when he's seen in the company of APC politicians, I think we shouldn't be extremely surprised.
Well, there are other layers to this conversation, because when you see the pictures, you see different things. Really, by the way, they visited the FCT minister in his own, but different interpretations of this particular picture. Because if you isolate each of them and you look at
the circumstances surrounding
them, and then you put
stories.
everything together, you begin to walk through some further maths, divide the x, and you come up with a possible result.
So when you come up with an answer, please let us know what it is.
Believe me, Nigerians have come up with answers already in their heads, but this is what happened. We don't have more details, but yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
So let's head out to.
Well, we're watching that space. We don't want to say what we think because what we think.
No, we think they had a meeting.
No, of course.
They had a meeting. So I mean, we've said what we think already.
This whole idea of an APC PDP member working in the government of the APC. I asked myself, our politics, are we really that mature to have that level? But that's a conversation for another day.
Oh, there's been governments of national unity in the past.
And they seem to be doing well with this.
Government of national
his performance
unity.
is I don't think it's in doubt. In terms of his infrastructure, because we're strictly talking about his politics now.
Right. You know what? That's a Nigeria tribute for you. What do we have next?
We have This Nigeria up next, Kayode, and this is another interesting subject matter that's bedeviled us for years now. And when I say years, let me put it in proper context. Not just the Tinubu administration. The skyrocketing cost of food began way back. We can piggyback to the Buhari administration, when government officials suffered a disconnect between what obtained in terms of prices of food items in the market, and they insisted that prices of food were not so expensive. So look at it: skyrocketing food prices, eroding minimum wage. Workers urge government to find ways of addressing cost of living crisis. Rep Speaker Abbas blames agricultural decline, farmers' displacement on insecurity in critical farming zones. So that's the big story on the front page of This Nigeria this morning, a very big concern. So what's the measure of investment of our national budget in agriculture? And we always concentrate a bit too much on the federal government. What about the subnationals? How much of their budgets, of funding from their budgets, will be allocated to agriculture this year? Which state can we say is actually self-sufficient in terms of agriculture? Which state can provide, for the food security needs of its population? What's happening to the food basket of the nation? Benue State. Those are very, very important questions this morning, hang on a whole lot of other things. So that's the big story on the front page of This Nigeria this morning. And we also see just beneath that story, FG plans stricter sanctions for airlines over delays, cancellations.
Will they
be implemented?
The 5,000th time, if you will. All right, let's go to The Guardian now. How Nigeria can leverage tertiary institutions' untapped talent. So this is a very important story because secondary school principal corps, governors corps, all of the corps that we used to have when we were younger, all of that, I don't know what is going on. We need to bring that back to tap this very, very exports that we're just allowing to waste away. We can do the best we can. So you can see some of the shining lights as far as athletics is concerned, and the sports around it on the front page of The Guardian. So
what's interesting, guys?
We should do the best we can to get back there.
Because this is what you see in other climes. By the way, it's not wrong to copy when it comes to policies or what works. Don't copy in examinations. But you see how other climes if you excel in sports, you get scholarship to go to school. That way, it's an incentive, and they track your growth. I mean, little wonder the NBA is doing great. Little wonder a lot of our athletes are, out there, in
Representing other countries.
It's simple. Use what you have.
Give them education.
Get these people from the streets. Oh, you're doing well. Okay, we'll get you through school and we'll track your growth. It's no-brainer. We'll produce great talent.
Okay.
And the Victor Simmons of this world came from communities where they were playing. Those were the places where they were discovered.
Not too far away from around Ajota,
Precisely.
Okay, but that's the much we can take from the papers. We have a lot of stories on the papers, but maybe for some other time. But we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, our very first conversation will have to do with the big debt profile of Nigeria and how the country will navigate out of that path to be more productive. Join us again.
We're starting off with Nigeria's debts. You'll hear that every nation runs into debt from time to time, in fact, all the time. But the concern is usually the cost of that debt. It's okay to incur debt for business when it is viable and where you're able to pay back and when it makes sense. But what is Nigeria's situation right now? I can tell you that we're at 142 trillion naira in debt. So if you were to do a plus or minus, that's times 3 plus or times 3 thereabouts of the current 2025 appropriation bill, which is still being considered in the National Assembly. So you get a sense of just how much debt we're in as a nation. How sustainable is it? What is the cost, particularly for you, infrastructure, and the rest? We're joined on the program this morning by Professor Olabisi Akinkugbe, Purdy Crawford Chair, Business Law at Schulich School of Law in Canada, a co-convener, African Sovereign Debt Justice Network, joining us from Canada. Of course, we also have Dr. Ismail Laolutu, member, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, joining us from here in Nigeria. Gentlemen, welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you.
Professor
Thank you very much.
I'll start with you. I just want to take some of the implications of Nigeria's current debt situation. If you look at the 2025 appropriation bill, indicates that Nigeria will allocate 15.81 trillion naira to servicing debt. If you put that in context, that sort of exceeds the combined budget for key sectors like health, education, security, infrastructure. All of that we're paying to debt. And the argument has always been, well, every nation incurs debt. It's not a big deal. But when you look at Nigeria's situation in the context of African nations and the global context, what do you say, Prof?
Thank you very much, Kayode. There's a direct implication we can draw out of even the numbers you've given. It is that the fiscal space that the government has to do some of those key things that you have identified, education, health, road infrastructure, and other types, will be significantly constrained, where the majority of the government earnings go to service debt, as is the case with Nigeria. Then it means there's really little room for the government to truly do all its promises to do for its citizens. Nigeria as a country in the context of Africa is not the only one going through this sort of situation. Coming out of news reports, for example, this morning, Ethiopia, its own debt is really also hitting about, I think, $68 million or billion dollars as well. So there's a whole lot of in there. If we think about a country like that, Ghana, Zambia, Kenya have all gone through this at various times, sometimes leading to unrest with the citizens. But the challenge with that is just that when citizens look at the government management of this debt profile or of their earnings of the loans that they get, that's where the hesitations start. They see possibilities of, number one, lack of transparency in how the debts have been either procured or administered. They see lack of accountability in how it's been administered. And at times we don't really know the true figure that we truly owe, because the combination of earnings of debt from multilateral financial institutions, regional banks, national banks, and private creditors mean there's serious doubt as to the true amount that is out there. So these are some of the things one can think about once we put Nigeria's debt profile in context. It has been rising. It is not unique, as you said, but it means it continues to limit even further an already constrained fiscal space for Nigeria to do some of the core developmental objectives that will matter for the life of everyday citizen.
We'll still come to talk about the African Sovereign Debt Justice Network, which you co-convene, particularly the implication of that, what that might, the kinds of contributions or, let's say, solutions that you're proposing. But let me go to Dr. Olotu for a moment and just say, some people have been doing the calculations and they sort of divided the total, debt burden of Nigeria by the population size. It's been said that if you were to go that way, then it will be said that each Nigerian owes over 700,000 naira. Some of them don't even earn a percentage of that. But that's by the way. Does Nigeria look like a country justifying such debt burden, Dr. Olotu?
Thank you for having me. Let me probably paint a picture. The debts, like you rightly said, as we speak, as at the third quarter of 2024, stood at over 142 trillion naira. We actually started 2024 with just 121 trillion naira. It tells you the growth of these debts. Out of this figure, our external debt is around 48.4%, while the domestic debt covers 51.6%. Now, federal government only out of the 51.6%, 48.64%, while FCT and other states handled 2.96%. Now, within this same period, our GDP is around a little over 70 trillion naira. That tells you that our debt to GDP ratio is about 50% or more than that. That indeed is really a very disturbing figure, because where you have high debt to GDP ratio, it is something that is not desirable for any country at all, because as it increases, it indicates higher risk of default. Are we actually managing this well? Personally, I think we are not, because what is important, like my colleague mentioned earlier, he talked about the issue of transparency, of course, how such debts have been applied. What is important is for our government to actually exhibit the fact that they need to prioritize productive borrowing, not just borrowing without applying to sectors that actually will bring about the kind of development or growth that we need. I would like to refer to the opening remark by Geoffrey. He said something that we need to slow down. Slow down. What it means is that the government needs to also slow down with respect to our debt profile. Very importantly, our debt should be able to solve our problems, not create more problems for us. So for me, are we managing it well? I don't think so.
So, Dr. Olotu, I'd like to, just follow on your current wavelength now by asking you to reflect on President Bola Tinubu's announcement towards the end of last year that our debt service to revenue ratio had been brought down from 97% to about 65%. But when you now consider the announcement by DMO that our current debt profile is 142 trillion naira plus, was that announcement anything to be excited about? Particularly when you consider that about 13 trillion naira of the 2025 budget will be funded by borrowing.
You see, I think all these have for our debt sustainability, which of course speaks to the ability of our government to actually meet up with its debt obligation without compromising future fiscal operations or without compromising the issue of a default. As we stand, we actually are battling with high debt servicing cost, whether we like it or not. A good portion of our revenue is actually dedicated to servicing debt, and that means we have very limited amount that is made available for other very critical expenditure. If you look at the 2025 budget, debt servicing is estimated at about 16.3 trillion. That includes the issue of a sinking fund. That figure is about 33% of the total budget figure of 49.7 trillion. And that same figure is about 45% of the estimated estimated revenue that we are supposed to actually generate. Incidentally, the budget deficit is likely going to be financed by over 69%, debt. So it really calls for serious concerns with respect to the issue of debt sustainability. Also, it is also of a concern that we should also be worried about debt risk of debt stress, because where you have increase in debt to GDP ratio, the increase in debt servicing cost, that definitely will sink Nigeria into a situation where we are likely going to find ourselves in the risk of default.
All right, Prof, let's come to you and maybe look at a few other things that has to do with the performance, because we understand that when we review, for instance, the 2024 budget, the recurrent elements all sorted, a couple of other elements, the one that always suffers the most is the capital components or the capex. When you look at the 2025 budget, what can we begin to cut down? Because there's the argument as to the fact that the entire government employment size, whether it's state or federal, is somewhere less than 5 million a person. So if we take the personnel element out of it, but we look at the other expenses within the budget, whether it's pseudo recurrent or capital expenditure, what exactly can we start cutting down from there so that we can cut back on the size of our debt? Because we already know 13 trillion will be borrowed.
Thank you very much. I think it's always good to put a little bit of context to it. I'm a professor of law, right? But it doesn't mean I've not read some parts of the budget. And I think, we have to be realistic. The cost of governance in Nigeria is a huge challenge. The government of the day has at different times justified the reasons they felt that, the current size of government officials, for example, they have in the executive arm, is necessary to carry out the vision of the day. While that is the case, we do have to be serious about what that means for the amount of money that the government expends in really running the entire architecture that comprises of that government. So number one is to think about actually reducing the cost of governance. And I think we have to look back at sometime last year when, the report around reimagining how governance is done in Nigeria was said that it will be implemented. Today, that has gone quietly under the carpet. It's a report to which a lot of time has been given, the RSIA report, which, these governments said they would look into. So I think, rather than just pointing at the current budget, that has quite a lot of loopholes. If you look at what a lot of the MDAs, the ministries have put up, there are costs there that are totally unnecessary. You think about, purchasing cars, I don't even want to start mentioning them. We see these things and they're sometimes, I don't like to use the word, but ridiculous that we're asking for these amounts every year. So one piece of it is to think about the overall cost of governance, items that are there, that are recurring, but really have no immediate impact in how the country's developmental trajectory will move forward. Number two is to streamline, right, on the government and the ballooning size of government. It is easier said than done, and that is why I think it's always better when we undertake these kinds of analysis to also refer the government back to some of the things they have within their own domain to do, which is to start thinking about really moving the needle on their own report. That may not be easy, but I think reducing a little bit of the budget, but also taking forward those kind of reports in structuring and thinking about how to cut costs of governance, it will be important. But quite apart from that, we can think about challenges that are systemic, right? Even with implementing the budget in itself. And these are issues around lack of monitoring. Dr. Abdullahi had mentioned the fact that a lot of these things, a lot of these amounts are allocated, but you think about the fact that we don't know whether these are really going through us activities and projects that have regenerative implications for them. That will have employment tag, that would take advantage of global value chains, that will ensure that the everyday people really have more on their table at the end of the day. I think these are areas we need to think about once we're imagining reducing or trying to carve out those challenging areas of the budget.
All right, Prof. The reason I want to stay with you for a bit is because it's a bill now. It's going to be an act. That means it's now a law that the spending limit has to be met depending on how much revenue we rake in or ramp up with all the reforms that are being put in place. I want you to speak to the issue of the Fiscal Responsibility Commission. Not much is heard of what they do. And maybe you can help educate Nigerians on how important that is to be able to check some of these excesses that we see within the budget. The National Assembly, sometimes they do their bits. We see this public engagement, the back and forth almost turning rowdy sometimes because of what is put in the budget. But the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, what do you think they should do to better our fiscal health from the role that is being given to them by the law?
Well, thank you very much. It's sort of interesting that when we have these conversations, there are nuggets at the beginning of opening that one can use, right? I think it was one of you that said we're tired of talking. Let's just do something, right? So here I don't want to fall into that loophole of again, talk and talk. But the reality is, when we think about the responsibility that is on these kinds of commission, it is to include vetting, right? Ensuring accountability, asking those hard but simple questions around what was this amount of money allocated for? What was it used for? Right? These are real simple questions of monitoring, evaluation, right? And ensuring there's accountability in the implementation of this budget. As you've said, it will be implemented, right? And to the extent that at the end of the day, we do find out that despite certain allocations that have been done, we get to the end of the budget cycle without really actually implementing half of what was committed to, is a big problem, right? And so you have this rush where government agencies are trying towards the end of the day to undertake things that should have been done a lot of while. So 3 things. Number 1 is to monitor. It is important to ensure that the allocations that have been the amounts that have been allocated for specific activities are actually monitored, and that the populace are kept in the loop about what is going on, not just when it is time to defend budget. Number 2, it is to ensure in doing so that there's effective implementation. The monitoring is not just to point fingers. Where help is needed, provide such help. It's not the case that every department actually knows what to do entirely when these amounts actually come in. Number 3 is then the reporting of it, right, to the people. It is critical that all this, throughout the life cycle of each budget, be monitored. What I like, to go back to something which I think it was maybe Khaled that raised it, around the fact that I think for the first time, if I may be wrong about this, so I'll take that back if I was wrong, but to say to an average Nigerian, you owe 700,000 naira, whether you know or not about it, should drive home the reality of what we're talking about. It is not an issue that is far and there in Abuja alone. It is living with you every day, whether you like it or not. So the corresponding part of it is the knowledge ability of the citizenry to also ask this kind of questions. But for now, your question is about what the Fiscal Commission should do. And I think in terms of that, like I've said, it is about monitoring, evaluating, and ensuring effective implementation as well as reporting of the amounts that have been allocated for the implementation of the projects.
Looks like we're in a fix, really. And we ask these questions, just hopefully those in authority are listening and they understand what, at least how Nigerians are also viewing this. For some, they see this as unsustainable because the foreign exchange is very unpredictable. Earnings from crude oil also very unpredictable, and it seems like we're focused on that. So God forbid, as we always say, if that sort of crumbles, if the market crumbles, I mean, there's a lot of unpredictability now. Donald Trump is making some moves, and you're not sure what to expect in the coming days. So that's why we keep asking these questions. And I'll go to Dr. Olotu. I don't know if we're praying for some sort of debt forgiveness in the coming years. I don't know if that's something that we're looking at and raking up all of this debt. But if we were to look inwards and say, first, all of the things happening externally are very unpredictable, and we're not really, even though they will tell you Nigeria's debt to GDP is, well, better than some other countries, even in Africa, right? But the truth is our own reality is different. The way our economy is structured is different. So if we were to look inwards and say, let's protect ourselves from these unpredictabilities, what are the things you recommend, Dr. Olotu?
All right, thank you very much for that question. First, I think we need to enhance our revenue generation. That is very, very important. In doing that, we definitely will have to broaden our tax base by ensuring that we formalize most of the informal economy, and to also improve the issue of tax compliance. Very importantly, which has actually been captured in the tax reform bill, is the issue of leveraging technology for efficient tax collection, so as to minimize cases of tax evasion and improve the issue of transparency. Then, of course, it's important that we need to diversify our revenue sources, because as a country, we have over-relied on oil revenue. Like you rightly said, the prices are very, very volatile. The demand for oil barrels are not, predictable. These are issues that we definitely will have to shade away from by diversifying into other sectors. For instance, agriculture, blue economy, mining, manufacturing, and services sector. Very importantly, too, is to be able to strengthen our fiscal responsibility by implementing very strict controls on government spending, prioritizing essential and, of course, growth-oriented expenditure. In line with that, we need to adopt a result-oriented budgeting framework to ensure debt finance projects are actually deliver measurable outcomes. Of course, we need to curb leakages. That's very, very fundamental. We need to strengthen anti-corruption mechanisms that we have in place to reduce wastage in the public spending. We need to digitize government processes so as to eliminate, sentiments and all that in our government public sector activities. Very fundamentally, like I mentioned earlier, is to ensure that we prioritize productive borrowing. If we are borrowing, we need to ensure that the borrowed funds are directed towards projects with high economic returns, such as infrastructure development, human capital development, which can enhance productivity and growth. We should also look at possibility of engaging actively in public-private partnership, PPP. We need to leverage on the private sector funding and of course, their expertise to be able to reduce reliance on government borrowing while accelerating project implementation. Our economic need to be very, very stable, which is key. It is not about prayers, but what we need to look at is to find a way of, restructuring debt and also finding way of managing such debts. For instance, we will probably look for extended period for repayment, a reduction in the interest rate associated with these debts. I believe if we have these and other strategies in place, we should be able to, manage ourselves out of this instead of just praying.
There you have it. We need to take our destinies in our hands. We have to thank you so much. Just to reiterate that point made yet again, that the amount budgeted for debt servicing in the 2025 appropriation bill is more than the money we're spending for education, health, security, all of that put together. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Professor Olabisi Kinkugbe, Party Crawford Chair, Business Law at Schulich School of Law in Canada, co-convener African Sovereign Debt Justice Network, and Dr. Ismaila Olotu, member Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. Thank you for your time on the show.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Karen.
Well, if you're one of those Nigerians said to be owing 700,000 plus, judging by Nigeria's total debt stock, then this conversation is certainly not over. But we'll take a moment now. We'll return. What are the trending issues? Find in a moment, so stay with us.
Welcome back. So besides Nigeria's burgeoning debt profile, what else are you talking about? And I'm here to bring you all of your thoughts and the reviews on this segment. So we're starting off with this one. More than 250 containers filled with tramadol and various narcotics have been discovered at the Nigerian ports as National Security Advisor Mr. Nuhu Ribadu launched war against drug trafficking. So PRO, Probe Niger, is the first user this morning, and you're saying, if you're serious, why don't you reveal the real owners of those containers? Our government needs to prove that they aren't complicit. Otherwise, why is it that nobody is ever held accountable for crimes like this? Now, interesting thought there, and I can also remember, some other containers that have been nabbed in the past. This time around, they weren't carrying tramadol, they were carrying firearms. Where did that lead? Good question there, Probe Niger. Dr. Bakari is the next user this morning. And you're saying Malam Nuhu Ribadu is a Nigerian. You can saddle with any assignment and go to sleep. You can rest assured that the job will be done. Okay. Yeah, that's a thumbs up coming from Dr. Bakari to the NSA there. And Ubede is the last user this morning on this particular subject matter. And you're saying they want to start praising Ribadu for Marwa's good job. Marwa has been making big seizures without any NSA committee, but today they are hailing the NSA. So expanding the conversation now to reflect that indeed the Director General of the NDLEA is hard at work, intercepting containers with, illegal substances. Okay, so those are your thoughts for that particular subject matter. Let's go to another one this morning. This time around, Nigerian Army commissions newly built Bola Ahmed Tinubu barracks in Asokoro, Abuja, and we saw that come through yesterday. There you have it. That's the brand new Bola Ahmed Tinubu barracks in Asokoro, highbrow area of the FCT, and we see officials there, gathered around the entrance to the newly built barracks. So who's the first user this morning? Yeah, resplendent, to say the least, about the barracks. Beautiful, edifice there. So the first user this morning is highly favored, who says, I think it's a breaking of the ground for the new military complex that will start soon. And Said is the next user. Said says, good work, but why name this project after a sitting president? The Interior Ministry named an immigration center after him recently too. I think the president should decline such honors. It's more fitting to do this after his tenure. Thank you for your question. We'll remember to ask this to the Chief of Defense Staff or any other defense official when next we have an opportunity to have that conversation. But interesting thought there. And Handler, who is otherwise known as Retweet Repost, is the next commentator here. And you're saying that this same army have retired generals who served this country, and even many laid their lives for the security of this country, yet they prefer Tinubu to be named after one of their barracks. Anyways, make on continue. That's another way of saying that let the trend continue. But we take it, your concern this morning, particularly about that barracks, is how it has been Christianed. You're saying that other officials, government officials, are more deserving of the naming of that barracks rather than the president. So let's go to the next topic this morning. This time around, OAU students honor lecturer with gifts for dedication. So this is very instructive. It says that whatever you're doing, some people are watching and your reward is just somewhere, and this is very touching. And there you have it. That's the video there of OAU students presenting their lecturer with a gift. I dare say that there are some things that are more touching than a very big alert in your phone. But some people will disagree with me this morning, particularly my brothers on the right-hand side of the set. But that must be very, very profound and rewarding for that OAU lecturer. But let's hear your thoughts. It's about you, right? So the first user this morning is Som Tobechuku, who says, a heartwarming viral video captured the moment. Okay, that's the headline rather. So Som Tobechuku says, beautiful to watch. Can we replicate this in all schools, universities, of course, where students appreciate lecturers who are good in the real sense of the word, those who taught and cared for them with seeking a reward for it or bribes for grades? Now, Adeshola is the next speaker, and you say, when you're a good lecturer, students will appreciate you. You don't have to be forming hard lecturer. Students can get your full mark, sort of. And Webimo is the next user, who says, before you can do this for a Nigerian lecturer, you just know they have been exceptionally kind and devoted, and that's how it's supposed to be. Waiting students don't face for lecturer hands, eh? Most Nigerian lecturers are just lower ranked. Well, I'm not going to complete that for you, because this is positive, and it's a departure from the norm, particularly about narratives that shape a student-lecturer relationship in Nigerian universities. And we hope that this kind of stories emanate more from our ivory towers. And that's it on this side of the divide, particularly on what you're talking about this morning. We're moving on to the next leg of our conversation, which is equally interesting, and Kadi and Jeffrey are standing by to take that.
Welcome back. Let's now go to the sub-national. Today in focus is Cross River State. We're joined on the program by the Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure in Cross River State, Mr. Pius Angbo. Mr. Angbo, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
There's a lot to talk about when it comes to Cross River State. Loads of memories and some of the big things that Cross River was known for. I'm talking the Tinapas, the Obudukacho Ranch, the Carnival Calabar. We can go on and on. We don't know the state of those things as it stands right now. Maybe you can walk us through some of the efforts of the government so far in revamping the landscape as far as infrastructure is concerned in Cross River State? Let's begin from there.
Yeah, good morning, Nigerians, and particularly my people of Cross River State. It's a pleasure having you all here. As was said, my name is Honorable Pius Edet. I am the Honorable Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure, Cross River State. As we all know, Cross River State as a tourism destination of this nation, and which have been initiated by past administration. And His Excellency Senator Prince Basi Edeletu, that administration have consolidated on the gains of the past administration, which we have really molded a lot of infrastructural development. And like you know, about his theme of his movement, the people's first mantra of this government have performed credibly in area of infrastructural development. It will interest you to know that most of the projects that was initiated from before during the military era, during from 1999 as well till then, the government of Senator Prince Basi Edeletu have deemed it fit, to go back and revisit some of those projects, ranging from the construction of Adiabo Ikonejo Road that was initiated during the military era of Abacha. And this is because it is something that will bring a high development in the state. And like one will say that Vasco da Gama discovered the sea route to India, and of course that place area is a swampy area. So I will permit me to say that Senator Prince Basi Edeletu discovered the swampy route to Adiabo because it is so swampy, which was the reason why the military era of Sonny Abacha couldn't proceed because the work was so tedious. So I want to thank His Excellency Senator Prince Basi Edeletu, for having such lion heart, to delve into that project. It's a huge one, really huge. It's like pumping water to Victoria Island, trying to feel the sea. And of course, this project has recorded a heavy milestone. The fact that we are almost crossing to the other part of, the other part of the Adiabo. So it's a huge success His Excellency have recorded. There are a lot of projects that have been initiated, and some have been completed, commissioned, some are in the process of commissioning, and I could go on to count them. The construction of the security formations in the state. His Excellency found that the only way to also encourage the security agencies is to give to go back and build back on the infrastructure, which presently we have been able to fix, though they are federal agencies, but we've been able to fix the Federal Reserve Commission. We have been able to fix the Nigerian Air Force. We fixed the Akam Barrack. We have also fixed the state, of course, the state CID, which is the police headquarters in Calabar, and a lot more. And upon resumption in office, we look at the way the town was, and of course, because of these people's first mantra, we had to start constructing and rehabilitating the town, ranging from the Calabar municipality highway, which of course you bear with me that is a federal government road, but we didn't look at it. Like we've always said, the federal government is seated in Abuja, where the Calabar Cross River State, the governor is seated here. So the best thing to do is just to fix the road, for our people. So for those who came to Calabar Carnival, right, where I can tell the story how Calabar was and how Calabar is, courtesy of His Excellency the Governor of Cross River State.
Well, Commissioner, there's a question that Jeffrey asked. It was just writing just before you responded, and he talked about the state of Tinapa and the Obudu Cattle Ranch. Just to speak to that, because when people hear Cross River, that's one of the places that come to mind. They think of such huge potential, and they also think about the dilapidation. So perhaps you want to speak to that as well, because that was a major part of this question he asked.
Of course, for Tinapa, just recently we have commenced work in construction. We have commenced work in Tinapa, His Excellency the Governor have awarded, have engaged in several interactions, have engaged with several bodies who have an indicated interest, in investing in Tinapa. So there is this collaboration in ongoing and to revive Tinapa. And of course, you know that a few years ago, Tinapa was vandalized during the NSAS, but I can speak to you authoritatively that we get to Tinapa now is wearing a different look. Not to speak of the Obudu Cattle Ranch. The Obudu Cattle Ranch, it's a world-class, natural habitation, and which today His Excellency the Governor have done incredibly well in reviving the Obudu Cattle Ranch. And for those who came for Calabar Carnival, somewhere there, I went there myself personally, and I can tell you the place is like, wow, it's the Zanzibar, that have been replaced, have been brought back, to Cross River Side and Nigeria. So I want to say that we have been able to fix those areas. Tinapa will soon swim back to life. The Obudu Cattle Ranch is functioning very well. In fact,
I'm sorry, what is your definition of wow and functioning well? I need also to put it in context. So there's what nature has given us, which is, as you said, beautiful. In fact,
when you
does not describe
wow,
it. But the part I'm talking about is the infrastructure. For example, the cable cars, the state of power in that place, the infrastructure. What we can, not what nature gave us now, what we are complementing nature with. So I'd like you to speak to those specifics.
But let me start by the issue of wow. It is issue when it has gotten extreme. That you can really see it, you can feel it, you can touch it. When you talk about infrastructure, tourism infrastructure, it is something that has to be very attractive. So the attractive nature of it, which His Excellency have been able to fix, is what would be characterized like wow. But I want to speak more about the issue of the cable car. The cable car it was done for years, and it is a mechanical nature. With the mechanical nature of it, His Excellency the Governor have delved in to see how we can revive it back. So I can say that because the last carnival, the cable car was actually not working. But the engineers have entered site just this January, and they are working on it. And I can tell you in the next few weeks, the cable car will jump back to life, which will complement, and the tourism potential of the cattle ranch.
So, Mr. Aidet, as it stands, the cable cars are not working. So, is there light, consistent lights? Is there power there now? I just want us to move on from there. Do we have consistent?
Well,
people complain on water. People complain on water and all of those things.
Water isn't there. His Excellency have fixed. The water have been fixed. The issue of power is what we are struggling with now, and the State Electrification Agency have jumped to work. They are there. They are working presently in the Northern Senatorial District, and of course, their main point is the Tinapa and the Bakas Obudu Cattle Ranch, which a lot of cables were vandalized around some areas, and I can tell you authoritatively, within 1 month, I'm sure that the issue of power will be fixed. But we are also having the issue. How to connect to the national grid is our challenge, which of course we will also using this medium to ask the authorities in charge of distribution to be able to see how that can be done.
All right, Mr. Aidet, if I may come in here. So I don't know what you justify as wow and all of that. If the cable car is not working, if power is not working, then the place is not working. It's as simple as that. Until it's fixed, it's not fixed. But let's move on now to, I want to quote something I think it was said by the Commissioner for Commerce last year when she visited, I think, the office of the Federal Commissioner for Works in that area. Because of the bad state of roads in Cross River State. Cross River has a lot of bad roads, whether federal or state, but I want you to posit it for us. I think the person said, as we are aware, most access roads to Calabar are in very deplorable state and practically impossible, particularly Calabar, Uyo, Ikom, Obudu. Bekwara Vendaya axis of Ogoja, and the Akankpa Biase section of the Calabar Ecom axis, to mention but a few. I do remember, I think the Senate President had visited the state's governor last year, and that was about a year plus when the president came into power. And he talked about that Ogoja Bekwara Katsina Ala road that will be in the budget. I checked the budget. I don't think I saw it in the federal budget, but you may have to correct me if I'm wrong. Including the popular Itu-Dukmani road, including look, this picture you're seeing is Ogoja North. That is the state of roads in Cross River State. If we go to Itu-Dukmani, I used to live in Calabar at some point. That between Calabar and Uyo, it's not supposed to take more than an hour, but I've been on that road for 6 to 9 hours. So these are very important projects that will give impetus to the tourism potential and aspiration of Cross River. What is being done at a state level to augment whatever the federal government is doing? Because at the end of the day, the road is in your state.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy you mentioned the Senate President there, and that is to tell you that those are the federal alignment, the Trong Air route, which of course the federal government ought to have been given a proper attention. That road was awarded, under the Buhari-led government, and then we had expected the 3 contractors that are on that route, the Samatek, Julius Berger, and of course the TCECC to have done the needful. But we were so surprised that the Julius Berger pulled out from that area on the premise that fund was not released to them. The other contractor we're having in the Calabar to presently doing the needful is the Samatek, which of course they are doing their best. And it's also to note that the original contract, the payment was stated the flexible payment, which is the asphalt. But upon the emergence of the Senate, the Minister for Works, I'm talking about His Excellency Senator Defo Mayi, he decided to change the scope of the work from flexible pavement to rigid pavement, which is from asphalt to concrete. And the cost of trying to wipe the process of these changes, it calls for delay. But however, I'm very much aware that the company have complaints about a series of IPC that have been put and payments have not been made. So I want to believe that if this is done, that the work will be in progress, which is the reason why we are also initiating the Adiabo Economy Road, because it will take about 35 to 50 kilometers for you to get to the other stretch. Whereas on the completion of the Adiabo Eseku Road, initiated by the Cross River State government, and of course, it's still the federal project because it was started by the federal government under the military era. But the state government of Senator Prince Basidro to have done a lot in intervening on federal road, even the Calabar road you just mentioned. I think sometime last year, we were able to do palliative on that way. And also the Calabar.
All right, Commissioner, just a moment, Mr. Edet. I want to stay on Calabar road because I'm very familiar with that road. My experience is as far back as almost 20 years ago. What exactly is the problem with that road? That for 20 years, and maybe even more, that's personal experience, that road has not been fixed. That's a major and important road connecting Cross River, Akwa Ibom, and down to when you're heading to Ikom, Ogoja, and then maybe you're going to Benue and the rest of them.
Yeah, well, for 20 years, you said the blame shouldn't be apportioned to anybody, but there should be apportioned to the PDP-led government who had ignored that road over the years. Under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that is when that road was initiated, and the Tinubu-led government have also consolidated, in what we are doing, which is why you see the progress of work. I'm happy you said you have been in Calabar, over the years, many years ago. You understand how the road was. From Otupani Junction to Akwa Ibom, you will agree with me. If the time you were here, there was such a project, that was initiated. But of course, under the APC-led government, a lot of progress have been made on that road, which, of course, it's a process. You understand that the swampy nature of that area, that it is difficult, for you to construct and to do that. But however, I know that the only constraint is fund. The people of Cross River State and Akwa Ibom State are actually suffering on that road. But want to use this medium to beg His Excellency Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu to do the needful in ensuring that more funds is released so that the contractors would jump back to site and and then ensure that those roads are completed on or before election. And so I want to say that the road is in progress. Samatek is presently at the site, not like they have abandoned the job. The job is still ongoing.
Right.
But I am thinking that the major challenge is the issue of fund. Another challenge that would have come was the issue of right of way, which people have built houses. Some people came building small shrines on the road and requesting for compensation, which of course was one of the things that also delayed the process. But today, His Excellency the Governor have stepped into to midwife the process of compensation to ensure that people leave the right of way for the company to proceed in the construction. So I want to say that by the special grace of God, this road, given the resources, the money to the contractors, the project will be on. And then the major challenge we're having there was this stretch of Julius Berger. Julius Berger haven't put from side. There was no contractor to fill the gap, which to stay on the other stretch of their side. But I'm very much aware that the Senate, the Minister for Works have re-engaged other firms, that are capable, to handle that stretch. So I believe in the federal government of Senator Bola Tinubu that that road will be fixed before 2027 election. But however, I still want to pray and believe that the people of this area, particularly our people who are in National Assembly, the Senate President and other senators should bring this up on the floor of the Senate and the House of Reps to discuss this as a matter of urgent attention, because I know lives that have been lost in that place. I had a friend of mine who also had issue, on that road. So if this road is fixed, I'm sure that it will increase the economic potential of both states.
Well, let's wind down on this, Commissioner, and I find it rather puzzling that you blame the PDP administration, because the governors in Cross River State for that period were also PDP. So are you blaming the federal, or you're blaming the state as well, because you expect that there will be some sort of synergy? That's really puzzling. But as we wind down, these roads remain unfixed. Even there are roads that people are reporting.
Well, I think
in the state.
It is a strong road.
Pardon me, let me just land on this question. There are those who are still complaining about roads within the state. And we see the kind of monies that come into the state, the kinds of promises that are made prior to elections as well. So what is your biggest challenge? Is it a question of allocating resources? Is it a corruption thing? The procurement process as well? What exactly is the reason? I mean, you're speaking to Cross River indigents, or at least residents now. What is the number one reason that you're not able to deliver at least good roads all around the state?
Well, for the issue of the projects in the state, we are the only constant we have, one which we have always been talking about, the allocation, the poor allocation as a result of our loss of Bakassi Deep Seaport and our Bakassi Peninsula, and of course the issue of our 76 Firewall, which was also our concern. But however, the government of Senator Prince Bassey II, it's about a managerial government, which a heavy managerial efficiency in terms of managing resources. So I don't think we have much issue, but the only issue is that we need money. Like the pastor will always say, that money is a wing of the gospel. With money, the gospel will always fly. So with money, we'll be able to do more in terms of infrastructure development. But with what we have achieved so far within a year, and I want to say is really commendable. With the lean resources of the state, we've been able to put a lot of things in place. We've been able to construct several, about count the numbers already. We have done over 100 kilometers of road, some completed and some ongoing. And so the government of Senator Prince Bassey II is about implementing the projects. Right. Some of the projects we met on ground and at the few past government completed and some were not completed. We are already on the project. But we're able to fix all of them like on road. We have ensured that the contractor return back to site. We are presently working in the northern central district in Ogoja Road. That is from Dope Junction to Monaya. We are presently working in Akreya Bridge, and of course, which was also a federal project. We are working presently in Ukele Road. You will, if you are in Cross River here, remember when the people of Ukele were yearning that Ukele must be heard, Ukele must be heard, and Ukele was not be heard. And courtesy of Senator University of Tulare government today, Ukele have been heard by the award of contract for the construction of the Ukele Road, otherwise known as one local, one and there, one him road. And of course, that road is a road that takes you to the Benue axis. It's a federal alignment. So the government has stepped, the governor of Central University have stepped into most of the federal road, which of course we had expected that would have been done by federal government. And so we are taking all of this. We are doing this just to better the life of the people, to make sure that people are happy, just like what you're seeing in Adiabo Road today. Adiabo is a federal road.
All right.
But today
we're totally out of time. My sincere apologies. I know that you know your roads pretty well, and we wish you the very best. And we hope you can get all the monies, because when I look at the numbers as well, the state needs a lot of money. It's very heavily indebted. When I also look at your debt to revenue ratio, the debt sustainability is something to worry about. But I hope that the government and the team will find a way to make this work. Cross River is a beautiful destination. I've lived there, so I understand exactly how beautiful that place can be. But I must thank you, Mr. Pius Edet, Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure in Cross River State. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll switch gears to another part of the conversation. Join us again.
Welcome back. So I'm excited about this segment because it's a first of its kind music critique. So we're going to be looking at the potential, the quality, and the future of Afrobeat sound and those who are providing the sound. So joining us on this particular segment on the show this morning, we have a music critique on the show, Mr. Chinonso Ihe Kire, who joins us right here in our Lagos studio. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, it's good to have you on the show. So yesterday we had an interesting conversation during which we looked at, the Nigerian sound from back then, Afrobeat to be precise, and the Nigerian sound from today. And our guest was not quite enamored by the quality of what he's listening to because he's an OG. And he says, back then we used to assemble all of the sounds together. Today technology has taken over such that production is not original. And that's where I want us to start from. First of all, how are you processing the Afrobeat sound quality of modern day as against the Afrobeat sound that our own great Fela Anikulapo Kuti is set, that we ascribe to him?
All right, thank you. Afrobeat as of the 70s when Fela started it wasn't existing before then. He came up with that idea. So it was a fusion essentially. So that just says that any innovation in music, contemporary music right now, would be from fusions. And with what I'm seeing, like generally across the scene, a lot of more rising musicians are thinking towards fusions, thinking towards making futuristic versions of what we already have now. But then the whole debate on quality is much subjective. So for some people, they tend to pander towards content, while for some people, they tend to pander towards how can we globalize this sound. Well, on an industry scale, I will go towards the right, like let's make what can be sustained Afrobeat itself has a shelf life, and we need to expand it. Nigerian music has a lot of genres. Afrobeats is more like a blanket label right now. So we just like gather everything from R&B to hip hop to pop, and we just call it Afrobeats because that was how the West, recognized our music, which I see as a blessing in disguise sometimes because it's easier to sell your product when it's very much recognized as one thing. Then people who really love it can now find variants. Like, okay, I like Afrobeats, I like the R&B from Afrobeats, I like the hip hop from Afrobeats, I like the pop from Afrobeats. So then, it's just a matter of taste, basically.
So looking at you, I think I have the answer to the question. I know where you queue behind the modern Afrobeat, but I'll still ask the question for the sake of asking. So which brand of Afrobeat would you rather embrace? Would you rather stand up and immediately begin to dance to? Is it the modern day Afrobeat produced by, the current crop of artists, or the one given by, the OG?
Right now, to dance, I would listen to a lot of old music because we had a lot more dance music before now. Right now, we have a lot more, influence from other genres, people creating different forms of present contemporary music. Like in hip hop, we have a lot of melodic rap in vogue right now. But most of these songs that get popular are not really what we dance to. Then South Africa is helping to, promote amapiano, house, and other derivatives of that genre. But when we bring it down here, right now, we need to have like some originality to it. So I think on my end, I tend to like cling more to what sounds really Nigerian, and then just gets to me. But basically, there's a lot of like contemporary music as well that you can really dance to. Like, you can dance to a lot of Ashake, a lot of Rema, and whatnot.
That's a smart answer. But Kadi.
Okay, quite interesting conversation, really. And I'm so stuck at the point you said Afrobeat has a short shelf life. Did I get you correctly there?
I said it has a shelf life.
Oh, sorry, shelf life.
Yeah.
Okay, shelf life.
Whether it's short, whether
Or
it's
long.
We've not found out just yet.
It depends on us right now.
Okay, I can hear a sigh of relief. But I think it's something to be very mindful of, right? I understand the times. Now is the time for Afrobeat. How do we maximize it? So let's talk about 2025, right?
Yeah.
One song that has been on replay, you know how the mind works, right? I think the mind is like the most annoying DJ. You can just keep looping a song for you. It's this Joy Is Coming song. I don't know how it happened. I've not sat down to listen to the full song, but I almost know the song for some reason. And it just speaks to, I don't know if the landscape is changing really. So let's speak to what 2025 holds really. So there's Joy Is Coming. There are lots of names and people are like, this is not Davido, this is not Burna Boy, this is not Ashake or Wizkid. Have I named all the...
Well, there's a lot.
So what's 2025 looking like, particularly with all these new names?
I'm looking at 2025 with optimism because we had a kind of slow 2024. We didn't have a major breakout act, unlike 23.
Oh, really?
Yes. So we had more, homegrown acts just keep dropping their music.
The same names that we're used to, right?
It's getting quite confusing why we're not getting more breakouts. But the work is still left for the coming generations, and we're already seeing like potential signs. Like this guy Fido, for instance, he became viral in 24 with another song, but this particular song, Joy Is Coming, right time to drop it, considering it's the beginning of the year. It's a very hopeful song. We've had other songs like that enjoy same prominence, but the song itself, it's not just because of the season, it's an interesting production. And I think many Afrobeats lovers right now are just very tuned to what sounds fresh, because if you keep giving them, refined versions of amapiano and other popular music in quotes, it might sound a bit still. So right now, he's able to add a tinge of, there's dancehall there, there's his own pop sounds, different. He's very breezy with it.
How do you describe this? Because I think a lot of people are now studying what he's done, right? normally people will try to replicate it and copy it. So there's a way he broke down his lines. He played around the beat. I mean, you're a music critic. I don't know if you get a lot of attacks basically when you critique songs, but let's try to critique the song. How would you describe it in terms of the flow, the lyrics, how it played with? I mean, there was a part where he was singing. Mojupe, follow. That's not the typical
way to sing.
You get, but I don't know if it was an Apala feel or a Fuji feel that he brought into it. But how do you describe his song, and then maybe we can study it?
Well, I think I already said he adds a bit of dancehall to his.
Right.
I think there are also elements of hip hop in how he structures his verses, because he's kind of like sing rapping. Slow talk, and it's very interesting that when he fuses everything together, it still sounds cohesive. Because for me, that's what I listen to when I listen to a song. Does it have enough for me to go back? Does it have that replay value? So cohesively, the song works. You might struggle with trying to embrace it because of its newness. If you, for instance, a strong fan of what that tune was, and then you're not really feeling what he's doing with it, but I feel like he's able to do a good job. For me, I don't have a problem with the song, particularly the song.
So let's talk about other acts that we're watching out for. Monarchy, Zeridiel, DXTNY. How do you pronounce that?
Destiny. His real name is Destiny.
Oh, right. DXTNY is Destiny. Or Destiny.
I feel the artist might maybe to correct us, but I've heard people
that achieve this purpose to make it talk about the name and try to figure.
So his music is currently like making the rounds now, and it's sounding very fresh, and that just goes to show that music is not domiciled in Lagos. So he's bringing something fresh. It sounds like it's coming from the south. There's another artist too like that, Monarchy. But he's from Benin City.
Right. Which is also south, anyway.
Yes, basically a lot of people are coming with someone like Lona is coming from the north. First Class is coming from Abuja / the north. So everybody's trying to make like sense of what their locales enjoy and just maybe like make it into a nationwide hit. Destiny was able to do that. He has a song called Uncle Pele, and it's presently trending. So the other songs too. This guy is Fola, is signed to Better Shmada. He also does contemporary pop / R&B. So
these are names other than
names.
Davido and Burna Boy.
Exactly.
So how do you see them defining the new music space? I mean, it pretty much reminds me of what you said about Afrobeat having a shelf life, but determined by what we do about it.
Well, we need a lot of variety right now. I think of Afrobeat like product. So if you're selling just dance Afrobeats and that's your biggest genre or breakout sound, it's stunting the growth generally because you have millions, billions of people listening to music. A lot of people catching on to the sound right now, looking for variety. And these guys, they're managing to infuse what they're already good at, putting in some tinge of their locales, their habitats, sounding like a mixture of indigenous music with contemporary music. So that's why I'm noticing the trend that many rising stars are tending to want to have a unique sound. I think that's one thing, that's one leg of the struggle, because if you have good sound, you can easily get it.
So our dancehall is evolving beyond the Afrobeat dominance in clubs and parties and concerts to what these guys are bringing, if I get you correctly.
Yes, so it's more than just dance music, because consumption of music has changed. It's not just in the clubs anymore. It's not just at parties anymore. A lot of streaming is being done, people in their houses, in their offices. So people want to consume music that speaks to other parts of their life when they're not dancing. And these guys are filling in gaps.
We must mention Taves as well.
Yeah.
Taves was a breakout
very
last year.
brilliant R&B artist. But he did, when I say breakout, I didn't think he broke out nationwide.
as much, right?
Yeah.
But that was a good one from Ibadan particularly.
Exactly.
So music is not. In fact, I'm not sure if Lagos really can lay claim. Most people just come from outside and then come to
Lagos
Lagos.
is still the capital. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of the infrastructure is here.
That's what I'm saying. But the acts most times come from outside of Lagos.
And what they do, they mostly come to Lagos,
Yeah.
like use these services and go back. You know, they're proving a point, like I can do this and enjoy where I am.
There you go.
It's worth
We
it.
earn it. Lagos is the melting pot, not Ibadan. So we watch out for Fido, Destiny, Monarchy, Zari DL in 2025. This is
There's many more. There are also ladies on the list. There's Winnie. She's from Benue. Like, she makes very interesting Afro reggae music. Then we have King Madi, who's broken up, but she's poised to be like a global breaker at this point, because that's another thing the industry needs. Like, we need to sustain the momentum on a global scale, because at the end of the day, it's a business.
There you go.
Yeah. Chinoso, you definitely have a hang on their work, and this is a very interesting niche for you. Thank you so much for your time on the show. We've been talking with music critic Chinoso Ihekiri.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
And from there, we move on to the next leg of our conversation, find out what it is after this time out. Join us again.
Well, we have a very special guest joining us on the show this morning. She's the Deputy Senate President of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire. She's the first Vice President, ECOWAS Female Parliament, Senator Fanny Musokura Chantal. She is attending His Majesty Ogiame Atuache III and Her Majesty Olori Atuache III's Women's Town Hall meeting, which is holding today. It's on the role of women in community development. By the way, her visit to Warri is particularly special and significant because she's sort of returning home to her ancestral roots as a proud daughter of the soil. So this homecoming reflects her deep connection to the land and her commitment to contributing to its growth and development. So we'll be speaking very soon with Senator Fanny Musokura Chantal on the show this morning. But I think it's really beautiful what we're seeing in Africa now. I know we've said this time and again that Africa, one, does not deserve to be where it is today with all of the potential we have, from human capital to the natural resources. And you talk about travel within Africa, for example, how expensive it is, trade within Africa, how difficult it could be. So it's lovely to see conversations like this coming up. And guess what? It looks like the women are championing this. I see a big smile on Bukola's face. And I think that's
You just have to come to Bukola.
Naturally.
Well, I'm interested in the conversation that will be taking place in the palace of Warri in Warri, Delta State, because it has to do with women, the role of women in nation building and in sustainable development. And, you know, people say that you have to be on the leadership table in order to be able to make the decisions, because the leadership table is pretty much dominated by men, and that's the reality of the situation that we currently find ourselves in.
Nothing for us without us is what they always say.
So women have that option to create their table or make their voices loud enough for the men to hear, so that we can have more women in parliament. I mean, look at the Rwanda example, and that's why I'm excited about this conversation. How can it be replicated across parliaments in Africa? Rwanda is leading with a record number of women in its parliament. But how many women do we have in Nigerian parliament today? We say that, in fact, in the 60s, there were more women in Nigerian parliaments than what we have now. It really is sad. So we're looking forward to getting inspiration from Senator Musokura Chantal.
I think at the end of the day, I like to be realistic. With the way things are now, it's going to be difficult for women to be on the table because of how it is practiced within our spaces. When these meetings are held, the money it takes to win an election. I know we're speaking to a governorship candidate in one of the elections, and they're talking about between 10 to 15 billion naira to be a governor. I mean, to prosecute an election. How many women that have that kind of money? So I think the stronger conversation can come from issues around legislation and quota system. But if it's about fighting for your space, it's a long shot right now. But it's not as if it can be done. That's the reality. Kari.
So let's get right into it. We have joining us right now Senator Fani Musokura Chantal. She is the Deputy Senate President, Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, and First Vice President, ECOWAS Female Parliament Association. Good morning, madam. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, sir.
Well, it's good to have you. And we mentioned earlier on that this is some sort of homecoming for you as a daughter, a proud daughter, I should say, of the soil. First, what does that feel like? Let's begin with that. How do you feel? I don't know if to say you're returning home. I know you've not been out of touch, but how does it feel?
The last time I was in Warri is 50 years ago. 50 years ago. And I'm so proud to be here. You know, when I sleep, when I think, when I leave, I think about Warri because my mommy always talking about Warri, childhood, all what she did because she missed her father, the family, and trying to talk about everything here. I know John Road, I know Asaba, I know everywhere in Nigeria. So it's like I was here before, but I'm very proud to be here. I'm proud to be hosted by the Olu, and everybody I see, I'm so happy. I came with 17 person just to let them know that I'm in Ivory Coast, but I'm a daughter of Warri.
And we are proud and excited to have you home, certainly. And we hope you can take all of home that you can when you're headed back. Well, let's talk about why you are here, because this is also significant. You're a powerful woman, not just in your country, but in the sub-region, in the African continent, and I bet to say globally. And this particular conversation is about the role of women in community development. Just before you came on, we talked about how tough it can be for women to really thrive and get to that peak in politics. Perhaps we can learn from your story and some of the things you want to share with Nigerian and African women today.
It's very difficult to do politics. I started politics at 17 years old when I was in high school. I tried to be a leader of my school, 6,000 students. And it was very nice because I just came because I used to be in school overseas, and it was my first year, and it was amazing that all of them want me to be the leaders of my schools. I made it for 3 years, and after that I go around and do some stuff. So in 2013, I tried to go for election as a mayor. I used to be 2 times a mayor in my country, in Ivory Coast. It strives 5 years, and it was very, very difficult and amazing because it was in the north of Ivory Coast, because my father is from the north and is Muslim and everything like that. And I went there. Can you imagine that I was not speaking the tribe, the language, but I went for election and I won. So it was very nice because finally I understand that when a woman wants to speak and want to say something, give how you can say, give the vision of how women can be, how we can develop our country, they can listen, even if they are Muslim, if they are Christian, because I'm Christian, but my father was Muslim, and my area where I used to do politics in my country is Muslim area, and they believe of what I said and what I want to do for the woman. And I say it's a miracle. I always say it's a miracle because my faith is so hard, because if it's not God, I could not do everything what I did. Because I used to say yesterday that my mom came in 1962 in Ivory Coast. She learned French in Ivory Coast, She do everything. She has no family in Ivory Coast. But can you imagine, this lady has a girl, and the girl is the leader of our family, my side, my father's family. So it means that Shekhi blood is very, very high, and God has His hand on me. My ancestor from Warriors, the hand on me and helped me making things. So after that, I was representing my country, Ivory Coast, in ECOWAS. Before that, I was representing Ivory Coast in African Union for 2 years, and then I came for ECOWAS. It was good, and at the end of the day, they asked me to be Secretary General of ECOFIPA. It's a female bureau of the parliament, and since last year, I was elected as the first deputy speaker of the female bureau. But I think that all is God's power. God wants me to do something, and He opened the door for me. It's not easy. I'm telling you, it's not easy, but He gave me the power and the faith to think that
difficult part.
I can do something for Him and for a woman.
Yeah, Madam, and it's that difficult part that I want you to speak to. Before you came on, we were talking about the many obstacles before Nigerian female politicians and why we have very low numbers of women in parliament. But here you are from Warri, you're the Deputy Senate President in the Republic of Ivory Coast. I wonder if the social, cultural, and religious context are the same. You talk about your country being Muslim, and yet you are a leader in that country. How can your example, be replicated by Nigerian aspiring female politicians who want to use parliaments, perhaps at the state level or the federal level, as the stepping stone?
I'm sorry, I don't really hear you because the voice was so down. I'm sorry, I don't really hear you.
Simply put, how did you overcome the challenges before you to get to aspire to become the Deputy Senate President in your country? Are the challenges similar to what we find in our own country, the religious ethos, the patriarchal system that we have in Nigeria as well?
Resume what you asked me. Is how is it possible for me to be deputy vice senate in Ivory Coast? Is it the question?
Go ahead. Yes, that's it.
That is the question?
Yes.
Okay. When we have election as a senate, because in Ivory Coast we have 99 senate. 66 has to be elected, and I'm from the part of the elected one. And in 2018, it was the first Senate of Ivory Coast, and I went for election. But I should tell you that, as it's very hard, we have hand of God, because in my area, in my state, I'm the only female elected. First, it was as a mayor, and now as a senate. And when I have to go for election, because we go as duo, because we are two, and all the male elected said that we want you to go for election. So everybody say Chantal should go, and we have to look the man who can come with me. So it was not so hard at this time, the first time in 2018. So I was the first girl elected in my area, but we were 8 women for all the countries to be elected. So you can imagine that when we went in Senate, as with my background, because for my background, I'm a diplomat because my father used to be diplomat. I want to be like my father. I'm a diplomat. I'm ambassador. So they say that because of your background and everything like that, it will be very good that you be vice president. And the charge is cooperation and integration, meaning all the Ivorian outside the country, I should talk with them and see how we can help them oversee. But I'm very close to people overseas because my mother is somebody overseas in my country. So I know how they can feel. So maybe it was why they want me as a vice president since 2018. And when they renew the parliament, the Senate in 2023, I was re-elected, and my president, Alassane Ouattara, trust me and want me to keep on being vice president, because to be vice president is a nomination. You can understand, because it's politics. And Alassane Ouattara, the president of Ivory Coast, His Excellency, trust me and say that I did a good job. Right. He wants me to keep on doing a good job. And you should know that Alassane Ouattara is very close to the ECOWAS. I can give you, comment on appelle en français, I can tell you something, because his brother...
I understand the dilemma, having to switch from French to English, and we must commend you, because I know it's quite tricky, but this is going to be whetting the appetite of people so they can be a part of that program today.
Nobody knows it so much, but I will let you know. The eldest brother of Alassane Ouattara, Mr. Gaussou Ouattara, was in Nigeria in 1960, and he was the first Ivorian meeting my mother after my father. He called my mother as his daughter.
Wow.
So you should know that Alassane Ouattara has a very good relation with Ivory Coast and with Nigeria. He don't say so much, but he has heart of Nigeria too.
Well, this has been a very beautiful conversation, I must say, and this is a reason for a lot of people to be a part of the Women's Town Hall meeting on the role of women in community development, where we will be speaking this morning. Thank you so much for your time on the show. We've been speaking with the Deputy Senate President, Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, First Vice President, ECOWAS Female Parliament Association, Senator Fanny Musokura Chantal, who is here, by the way, on the invitation of His Majesty Ogiame Atuache III and Her Majesty Olori Atuache III. I know you are in radio and television, so we'll talk about that sometime later. But madam, thank you very much for your time and wish you the very best.
Thank you very much. It's an honor, and I'm so proud to be Shekiri and Urobo side, because my grandmother is Urobo, and I want all of you know that I love you so much, and I'm proud to be part of you. Thank you. God bless you. And I'm asking your prayer, all of you prayer, to keep on, to let me be so powerful in my country, because it's half of you in my country.
Thank you very much. Amen to that.
Amen.
All right, Jeffrey, now definitely this conversation is not over, but Jeffrey has some very important tips for us on PC Fix. Jeffrey, what do we have?
There's a lot away from politics to technology.
We're going to go over to Jeffrey now. Definitely this conversation is not over, but Jeffrey has some very important tips for us on PC Fix. Jeffrey, what do we have?
There's a lot away from politics to technology. Let's talk now. Akin Bitoye is a tech guy. What are we doing today on PC Fix?
We'll just take a few tips, smart tech choices, how to spend less and do more with your technology devices. The running theme for the last couple of weeks has been to save money. Earlier on in the show, they say each person is owing 700,000 in Nigeria, right? So you can save part of that money to pay back. So the common trend is usually we make unnecessary purchases. When you want to buy a gadget, you buy what you don't really need because that's what's in vogue, and that's what you see 2-3 other people using. Say, wow, that's a nice one. How much did you buy it? Okay, then you go out and buy it. Then you spend money on technology that does not fit your need. So the tip this morning is
Just give us 2 tips. We got time. 2 tips.
yes. Overspending happens because you hear jargons. They tell you 4K, Core i5, RAM, DDR, SSD. All of these are not what you need. It's important to just take note of 3 things. 1, the processor for a computer.
Okay.
The processor, either Core i3, Core i5, Core i7, that's the brain of the computer. That's what determines how fast it will perform. The next thing is the storage. If you work with a lot of multimedia files, video, audio, you would need large storage capacity. And if all you do is just type, you are a journalist, you are on the go, you do more of writing like an author, or you work with schools or hospitals, you would need something lower. So
all right, the last one.
Last one would be the memory. You hear RAM. It's not the RAM that we eat. So it just determines how many applications you can run per time. If you take note of these 3 factors, the processor, the storage, and the RAM, that would help you to save a lot of money and buy just what you need.
All right, I'm so sorry. I had to make you be a quick presenter with so much speed because we're talking about processor and speed, right?
Exactly.
So,
of course,
we're going to have more time next week to talk about some of the things you're exploring today on the program. Aki Bitoye is a techie on PC Fix segment. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
Let me welcome to my people as we begin to wind down on this particular one.
That was the quickest quick VC picks that I've seen in weeks.
Yes, that's why it's a quick one.
Yeah.
That's why we're not sitting down. We're in a hurry. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Ozoma. I allow them to sit while I stand. That's a good one.
Have yourself a wonderful weekend. We'll be back again next week. I'm Bukola Oka.
I guess I'm sitting on existing protocols. Have a great weekend. Sunrise Daily is next. Goodbye. I'm Kaida Bikili.